Hello and welcome to Real Chat with Kat, the podcast dedicated to igniting your entrepreneurial spirit and empowering you to conquer new horizons. In this podcast, we chat with inspiring entrepreneurs on their journey to success through some amazingly insightful and expansive conversations. These episodes thrive on thought-provoking chats where our guests fearlessly explore their path to success, sharing their experiences, failures, and triumphs. No topic is off limits as we deep dive into the talked about and not so talked about pieces it takes to build a business, overcome limiting beliefs, deal with personal struggles, and everything in between that shapes our lives and our businesses. I'm your host, Kat Polsinelli, creator and founder at The Lotus Effect, where we believe that success is not just about strategies and tactics, it's about cultivating a powerful mindset and creating customized business operations that align with you and your true purpose. Whether it's mastering time management, improving productivity, enhancing leadership skills, or simply fostering a growth-oriented mindset, we'll provide you with the tools and strategies to flourish in both your business and personal life. I'm so excited to have you join us today in this episode, so get ready to feel empowered and inspired as we learn together and from one another on how to rise above challenges, break through limitations, and unlock our full potential. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Real Chat with Kat. I have a special guest with me that if you guys have not heard her before, you should go back and listen. So we have Miss Tiffany Lewis with us today, and Tiffany actually helped me with my rebranding a little while back. So if you guys have not heard that episode, please go and check it out so Tiffany can feed you some of the amazing things that she dealt with me. But today is going to be all about her and her story. So Tiffany, do us the honor of telling us who you are, what it is that you do, and what got you into this space.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, Kat. I'm super excited to talk to you today. My name's Tiffany. I am with More Meaningful Marketing. So I am a strategic digital marketer. It is what I have a degree in. It's what I've always done. It's what I've always loved. I came from the corporate space, and after being fired for really struggling through my early stages of motherhood, I decided to create a digital agency of my own where I could focus more on the human side of marketing and be able to watch my children grow kind of a little more at my leisure than corporate was allowing for.
Yeah. And I love that so much, right? Because so many of us, we think that there's something wrong with us when things don't work out in the workplace. And, I struggled with that when I was fired from my medical job that I did for such a long time, because we, especially people that are very nurturing, men and women, right? We wholeheartedly take on other people's businesses almost as if they're our own. So it's a huge kick in the gut. And it's really hard sometimes to recover from that when someone, butts heads with you because you feel like you've put in so much, when in reality, you were growing somebody else's business and they just didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally relate, and it can be a gut punch. And I know for me, those early days, I was spiraling. I'm like, I have had a good work ethic. Did I just not adjust to motherhood well? My priorities changed, but the expectation of me did not change. And so that juggle of like childcare and sickness with daycare and balancing all the plates and like the new you and the identity crisis and how do we still make the relationship work and all of those early times without sleep to add to it, right?
Yeah.
And trying to make something, but and then like meeting that demise of losing a job that you really loved and put your all into, to your point, and just not seeing those results through the way that I know you and I are so goal oriented. And it can be hard to take that kind of hit emotionally and really then recover and reclaim your power.
Yeah, definitely. And, a lot of people don't think about this either is, when, like you said, when you have young children and you go through a huge transition. I mean, they say that your body basically like regenerates all of its cells and you change like every 7 years, right? But when you have a child and when you have young children, that's a whole nother piece of you that now gets to be taken away almost, right? Because you give it to somebody else. It's just like when you get in a relationship or you get married, a piece of you goes to that person that you're with. And it's not that you lose it, but at the same time, it's giving other people those pieces of you that make you whole. And sometimes we forget that we can reclaim those, we can take those back for a little bit, right? And still provide the love and the care, but while making sure that we are still the priority. And as a mom in motherhood, especially, and I know there's single dads out there as well, that can be such a tear between putting family first, putting yourself first, putting your job first, right? Because job makes money, money pays for things, that essentially takes care of everything else. And it's so easy to get in this cycle of like, which one comes first? What do I do? How do I juggle all three? How do I put all three first? And eventually what ends up happening, right? We almost always end up putting ourselves on the back burner because we're like, it's okay. I can worry about myself later. We think that while we are strong, right? We think we're invincible. Like, it's fine. I'll handle my stuff later. I'll put myself later. I'll do that later. And then we just keep pushing it off and pushing it off and pushing it off till eventually we run into burnout, anxiety, pieces of us where we can't get it back. We find that we're screaming at our kids, our partners, we're yelling at work because we have not given ourselves the time to deal with all of the other stresses we've put on ourselves in the world. And I know that, that's something you and I've kind of talked about as well. When you came out of the corporate, was dealing with all of that and having to try and find this, I hate using the word balance. So the ebb and flow in life with being a mom and a wife and running a business and all of the things.
Yes. I mean, it's so true. And just as you say it there, like I'm reflecting on that time because it's been 5 years now. And so I'm not in the thick of it anymore, but I don't know that I ever in that moment prioritized myself. Of course, by default, I was going to get more time to be a mom and that's what I wanted. But what I didn't do is find space for my mental health to thrive, to have exercise, to make sure that I'm eating well, to make sure that I'm not overworking. That balance is seen as a holy grail. And even now, women will come to me and like, how are you doing it all? How are you doing it all? I'm like, well, I have a nanny. I don't anymore. I had a nanny. I had lots of help and also a really big need for intention later on that I didn't have in those early times. To your point, me, oh yeah, I can wait. I can wait. I can wait. And then what happens is exactly what you're saying. The result is the explosion, okay, now I can't even deal with it in like a consumable manner. Just everything's firing on all cylinders and everything's melting down. And you get to a point where you can't like pinpoint exactly what it is, right? Because you've been stuffing it for so long in the interest of everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, you were getting the one piece, which is that you wanted to be a mom and you wanted to stay home with your kids. And we have to remember that that's not us prioritizing us. That's still us prioritizing someone else. And while that's extremely important, especially when they're young and things like that, like you said, there's the sleepless nights. There's the days when the kid won't sleep, that they're fussy. And so you don't know what to do and you don't have the answers and no one can help you because they can't talk to you. Right. And it's like all these things that build up. And we have to remember that we still need space for us to like just let go of all the things, whether that's sitting outside for 5 minutes by yourself, whether that's enjoying a cup of coffee with your eyes closed, whether that's screaming into a pillow, right? Just to like get it all out. We don't realize how much of a difference that those small little incremental things can do for us in a day of chaos, which eventually you feel like turns into weeks and months and years of chaos. And then, like you said, when you look back, it's hard to even say, oh my God, what did I do for myself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll be honest, now I have 2 kids. At the time, I just had one. And even now, like there's such a big emphasis on prioritizing. And I found so much like love and fulfillment in my business, but I pursued that because of the time it was going to get me back with the kids. I also obviously loved what I did, but it was almost like a byproduct of all of the other wants and needs. And then my priority was very last. And oh yeah, and I also do enjoy what I'm doing, and then now it's like, gosh, taking a moment to kind of relish in the accomplishments, even the small wins as entrepreneurs and as moms. It's like, oh, the baby slept through the night. Like that might not feel like a big deal, but gosh, like celebrate that baby slept through the night, that you're well rested, that you get to enjoy your coffee. You're not rushing through it, that you get to go to the school field trip and you're not thinking about looming deadlines. I mean, there are just so many ways that we, as you pointed out, like kind of lose ourselves. And even like, it sounds like there's neuroscience even behind all of the ways that women and moms and parents change.
Yeah, definitely. And you brought up one of my favorite subjects, right? About focusing on the small things, because we get stuck in a society where we're praised for the big accomplishments, right? And we're praised for everything we did for the year, so we get that raise, or we're praised when, our kids accomplish a huge goal. But like you said, it is so important. Like, I can't stress this enough to people, how you need to focus on the micro things that happen in your life and be not only aware, but be like, yes, right? Because
Yeah.
it's so easy to just brush it off and go on about the next thing, right? And we do that all the time. But what happens is then it's really hard for you to look back and say what you've accomplished, because all
Yeah.
your brain sees is, well, I mean, we just kept going. So what did you accomplish? Well, I don't know, until you get to that end product. Whereas what we should be doing is focusing on those small little micro things every single time, So I get that so much. I love that you talk about that. My sister and I had this conversation when she had her firstborn. He's a year and a half now. And she would be like, I'm just so exhausted and I don't get to sleep. And I'm like, girl, sleep when he sleeps then. Like, if he takes a nap, take a freaking nap. She's like, no, I've got this stuff to do. I was like, your house is not going to burn down. Like, just
Yeah.
FYI, like, that was a really hard thing for me to learn.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn it till my kids were teenagers, before I finally got to the point where I was like, you know what? There's a dirty dish in the sink and I don't flipping care. Like, I want to sit on the damn couch. I want to eat me some ice cream and then I want to go to bed. Like, but it's
Yeah.
so hard for us to do that because we feel like everything needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be done. Oh my God, what if this doesn't get done? When am I going to get time for it? You can't keep living in this futuristic world that you don't know the outcomes, because you're always going to keep yourself in this, well, what if, but I could this and I could, but this could, and that doesn't matter. All we have right now is the present moment. All we have in the past is the lessons that we chose to learn or not chose to learn at that point in time, and trying to learn it. But really what you have is what is right in front of you, what is going on right now. And I coming from a mom who literally had to clean her house every few days because I couldn't stand having crumbs on the ground. Like,
Yeah.
It's a really hard lesson to learn and to teach yourself, but there are other priorities in your life that are way more important than I need to get every single thing finished in my house. And one of those is taking care of yourself.
Yeah. And to kind of like piggyback off of what you said, finding other people in your circle that will celebrate the small and the big wins with you. What I found really quickly in both motherhood and business ownership is that not everyone you love is going to be your tribe. Really, you do kind of pare down your supporters. Your mom might not buy from you. She's not your ideal client. Your cousin who you've been close with your whole life may not support you. Your spouse, probably, if he's not or she's not an entrepreneur, there's no way that they can understand, this journey that we go through with finding our own tribe very digitally today, right? We're not
Mm-hmm.
meeting face to face with coffee all the time. You and I are in different states. We've never met in person. And so there's this whole other dynamic of us championing ourselves and then fueling that gratitude on a regular basis, because we aren't in the corporate place where we're getting like the attaboys, right? And the pat on the back and even the praise for giving ourselves a raise, right? It's very different. So finding your own tribe early and being able to not have everyone's support and being okay with that. And that's a really, I think, big lesson that I learned early on in business ownership and in motherhood, of just finding the right support. It's not everyone. And it's not
Yeah.
even sometimes who you'd expect.
Yeah, I agree with that one 100%. And it's so funny that you say that too, because, when I started on my entrepreneurial journey, my husband did the best to support how he could, but he still struggled with it. He's been in corporate for 20 something years in IT. And so he's very structured in data and numbers. Right. And so, I lost a lot of people that I hung out with because I was so focused on these other things, and I started changing the way that I was speaking, and people didn't necessarily agree with it or didn't know how to answer back to it. And so it just kind of like naturally pushed a lot of people out of my life that I was around. It's not that it was, that they were bad or anything. It's just we didn't have the same views. I was growing in a different direction and we just didn't line up. And it became very lonely for a really
Yeah.
long time. And, it's funny because I used to tell people when I would talk to them, like, yeah, I don't have any friends right now, but it's okay. Like, I'll find people. And then what I realized was I actually have a lot of people that are supporting me. It's just I don't have a lot of people in my state. But I have met some of the most amazing people like you that have brought so much support into my life, whether it's just you're doing a great job or, hey, I want to introduce you to this person. Like those connections mean so much. And I've been able to have such deeper conversations with
Yeah.
people, but you have to be willing, like you said, to find your tribe. And that may not mean people that you already know. It may not mean your family that you've been trying to explain what you do and they look at you like you have three heads. Like you really have to be open to the fact that there are beautiful connections out there with people that aren't even remotely close to you that will fill your cup up just as much as you will fill theirs, even if you all aren't able to be in the same space. And I think that is one of the beauties of living in a digital age. When we look at all of the negative pieces of it and, people on social media and, complaining and blah, blah, that to me is one of the beauties of the
Yes.
digital age is the deeper connections that we have the ability to reach out to if we open ourselves up to it versus just trying to find people in our hometown.
Yeah, I mean, you're so right. And I know I've appreciated having you as a support system in my tribe as well. And you've made so many great introductions for me. And that reciprocity is so important to be open to receiving as well as entrepreneurs. Like we're give as mothers, or give, right? And being open to receiving the help, the support, the networking, the words of encouragement. Because you go from that. If you've been in corporate, you're used to maybe being a little more buttoned up. I can do this on my own. Look, I'm overachieving. I'm
Yeah.
successful. And you create this like persona. Now I'm just like full out. I'm playing all in. We have tantrums here. We have meal times that go south. We have bad hair days. We have meltdowns on the way out the door, and so all of those like things that I viewed as like weaknesses or did not want to portray in corporate are now I'm more able to step into that authenticity and get those referrals and introductions and all of those connections for the right reasons and for my own authenticity, right? And not just who I'm portraying to be either online or, in the corporate space.
Yeah, definitely. And what's interesting too is I feel like there are a lot more people that are coming through with this authenticity piece that they're really a lot of people are trying to really lean into more of who they are and being okay with being accepted that way, which is one of my favorite things about you when it comes to the way that you market with people as well is everybody has their own way. No way is the right or wrong way. But one of the things that I really cherish about you is the fact that you wholeheartedly hold on to that authenticity piece, especially when it comes to your clients and making sure that through their branding and their marketing, their social media, whatever it is that you may be helping them with, that's where your focus is versus a little bit more generic, which I do see some people doing. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that and, how you have helped people kind of lean into accepting and wholeheartedly, like really wanting to continue in their space versus you just saying, hey, like, this is the way we do it. Here's some templates. We can change it and just go on about your way. Cause I love that you essentially tailor your marketing to your clients, just like I tailor my coaching and meet people where they are. I feel like you do the same thing in the marketing space. You meet your clients where they're at and you allow them to have their own space of who they are and leaning into that with them, which to me is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. When I created the name More Meaningful Marketing, and it's still an evolution, right? Like, I think until I work with clients, like, oh, yeah, like more meaningful marketing, I get it, right? It's not just your run of the mill, throw some stuff up on social media, grab a template. It is really taking the time to display those vulnerabilities, the things that maybe we've been hiding that have prevented us from playing and being all in and stepping into who we are and really exploring that with my clients, understanding why they haven't been able to be vulnerable. Maybe what is their story and how do they want to tell it? What is the narrative? You get to control that on social media, but what you don't want is to create this persona that social media is your highlight reel and I only share the successes and this is who I am and I'm so great and I'm the perfect mom and I'm the perfect wife. Look
Mm-hmm.
at this, award. And so showing those in betweens, and it's kind of contrary to marketing, right? Because people say like, oh, well, if I show my imperfections, people may not want to work with me. And I would
Yeah.
say that's anything, but true. It's like as humans, we're imperfect. So if we present this like golden view of what life looks like when we pull back the veil, I don't think we fully get the fulfillment we could in our marketing. We don't serve our clients well. We don't get to the levels that we would like to get to because maybe we're living someone else's version of success, right? So it's really about stepping into that from the branding perspective. What colors do you like? What logo should portray you? What symbols are you interested in? And starting there, branding is really the foundation. Finding out your likes and your dislikes and the personal side to you, I think is what sets the stage for a really successful online brand and presence.
Yeah. And I love that you said the personal, right? That personal piece, because for a really long time, especially with the majority of people being in corporate, right? There was one side of it. And what we're starting to see is even in the corporate space, people are starting to bring their personality more into what it is that they do. And for a lot of people that are in the entrepreneur space, what I hear is, well, one of the reasons I got into it was, so I could be me. So I could do what I wanted
Yeah.
to do. But then you find people kind of like holding back because you still have that corporate mindset of like, oh, you have to be careful and oh, somebody's watching you. But you're right. The more that you step into who you are, and to be honest, sharing your quirks and things like that,
Yeah.
I laugh at myself sometimes with some of the stupid things that I do on social media, like my random lives when I have like a thought in my head. But that's who I am, right? And what I have found through that is the more that you can wrap your personal piece in with your business and merge the two instead of trying to play two separate roles. One, it makes it so much easier to be able to ebb and flow back and forth between, hey, I've got to handle a personal issue and I've got to focus on my business, right? Because you're not playing two different parts. You're the same person, you're just handling a situation.
Hmm.
And those that do connect with you are going to be the best people you have ever worked with, because not only are you fulfilling them, they're fulfilling you. You align. There are things that are similar. You kind of see things in the same view. Whereas when you try to put out this persona of this one person, and that's what they come to expect, and then if you're any different, it can cause a clash, right? Or you find out
Sure.
that, oh wow, oh you are this person that I was perceiving to be. And like, I don't like that. Like now you don't know how to work together, but you don't want to lose the money. So now it's just an awkward thing. And you've got to finish your contract out with them or whatever the case may be, or
Hmm.
someone has to say bye. Right. And it just causes so much tension and stress. And I feel like you're pretending. And when you pretend for so long, it becomes exhausting. And so
Yes.
sometimes I feel like the burnout isn't necessarily we're doing too much, it's that we're pretending too much and the body
Hmm.
just can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you made so many great points there. I'm not going to be able to touch on them all. I'm so glad that you took that journey for the listeners because you're so right in the way that your ideal clients will then be attracted to you and who you've portrayed. Same thing, I mean, losing my corporate job, it was very unpopular to go against the grain and tell people I got fired. My mom, the first thing my mom said was like, what if you need to go back to corporate? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, yeah, what am I doing? And so I sat kind of and like licked my wounds for a while. And then I was like, I could either go find another corporate job or I could share my story because I know I'm not the first woman, working mom for this to happen to. Unfortunately, I know I won't be the last. And I want to show that like what felt like my biggest burden became my biggest blessing and to share the ugly in betweens where I wasn't sure, where I put the business on autopilot, when I went back to corporate, when I jumped back out of corporate, because I realized I was never going to love anything, as much as I loved my business. But I've taken, my audience on this journey with me, and it has been imperfect. But from that, I think there are a lot of beautiful stories being told in confidence, and they know that they can trust me because they've witnessed some of my mess, online. And I don't even know if I would call it a mess as much as I would call it my learning opportunities and failing forward, and just really being able to share the journey in a way that felt vulnerable. It felt raw. It felt like I didn't know at the time if I was doing the right thing, but being
Mm-hmm.
able to like merge my kids into this and show the in-betweens of like going to speak at the school and sharing my career at the school, and then picking kids up early and having a yes day, and that has nothing to do with marketing, right? It's just who I am, and the way that I've been able to kind of flex this business to create a life I love, I think has been really inspiring for a lot of entrepreneurs or women, especially who have startups or side hustles, and they're not how to make that hobby a dream. That's the
Mm-hmm.
part that has been so rewarding. So many women coming forward and saying like, "Oh my gosh, I quit my job and you were right. Like I can do this." And that's the stuff. It has nothing to do with marketing, honestly. That's my favorite part, is watching people evolve and know that they can do it and then seeing the proof that it works.
Yeah, definitely. And you have to learn to embrace that journey, right? That's the bigger piece of it. And sometimes that's a huge learning curve, is
Yeah.
embracing all of the good and the bad, right? Which I love about your journey so much. And that's why I love following you online with all of that. Now I have to ask you, since we're talking about marketing and everything, if somebody is like, okay, I know I need to get better at it. I kind of want to, step into a little bit more of like showing me, right? And not just
Yeah.
my business. Do you have any suggestions for them? Because I know that one thing I always say is like you should have what I call legs of your business, and the same thing with your marketing, your social media. You should have legs of your social media so it holds that tabletop. So, do you have any suggestions for people that want to kind of lean into not just showing the business side and talking all about the business? How can they kind of trickle other things into it? And, where is that, like, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, I mean, my golden rule of thumb, I have two things I say often, and I hope these will stick. The first one is a quote that says, "Be a resource, not a sales pitch." And I love that, the education piece, the sharing piece without expectation. And then I always say your business really should be the, oh, by the way. We don't want to be hard sold to now. We know relationships are important, especially post pandemic. We've all gone through something that has
Mm-hmm.
had an impact on us personally. It's had an impact on us professionally. The economy has had an impact. So these
Yeah.
relationships and the way people spend money is so important. Like, of course, you want them to spend it with you, but wouldn't you rather them spend it with you because they like you, they like what you offer, they know they can trust you? That's all around very fulfilling. And those are going to be your people that are going to give you the referrals, the testimonials, the results that you can help them with because they're all in. And so if somebody's feeling hesitant, like how much do I show? How much can I be vulnerable? Merely start with a simple list of like 10 professional things you want your audience to know, right? I have A, B, C, D, E offerings, and then make a list of your personal attributes. I am a mom. Even hobbies, right? I'm a runner. I'm a biker. am the PTA mom, like whatever that personal brand is for you. Just put 10 things down on a piece of paper. If it ends up being 20, and then make a post about each one of those things and roll it into your content strategy and practice your storytelling. How much do you want to reveal? How comfortable on a scale of 1 to 10 are you with that story? You can rate each one if you want to, and then work up to giving that all, that 10% or 10% top 10 comfort level, right? So where you are all in, you're sharing it all, it's messy, you don't care, you post it, and whatever happens happens, right? And you'd be surprised though how many people relate, like, "Oh, you like to bike? I do too. Me and my family go every weekend." And so while that may have nothing to do with your business, it's a really good conversation starter.
Yeah, I love that. I love the list as well. Like that's so smart to kind of really give you an idea. And like you said, even if you are wanting to share certain stories, woo, words are hard. Um, being able to, like you said, kind of gauge it on a scale of like how comfortable am I sharing this? Because I think a lot of people do get confused with vulnerability and authenticity. And so you've got some people that share like a teeny tiny bit, and then you've got those that are like the complete opposite, and they're like No offense, anybody. They're like
oversharing.
bawling and they're like, this is so hard, and all the things. And it's like, okay, we don't need to have a meltdown for everyone to see, unless it's like, it's the aftermath of it. And you want to explain, like, this is what happens, crap hits the fan, like, this is how I'm dealing with it, kind of a thing. But there is a comfortable in between that people have to understand. And, especially if you've gone through something, like when I first started talking about my abuse, there are a lot of pieces I didn't share because I wasn't healed from it. And so having conversations about it didn't actually help. It was scaring me and it was giving me anxiety because I'm like, oh my God, somebody's going to judge me. There's going to be a comment. There's going to be this, right? So you have to find that space, wherever that is on the scale for you, that you're comfortable with. And if you want to push yourself a little bit because you're like, I know that if I did this, this would help people. Cool. Then you can kind of push over that edge and see what happens and how it makes you feel. But you don't have to go from a 1 to a 10 and just like
No.
bleed your heart out while you're
Yeah.
still dealing with things. And I think a lot of people forget that you can scale that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And there's always risk, right? With social media, we talked about social media used for good. We can make connections, we can support people, we can share fundraisers, we can do all these great things and have reach. But I mean, there is a real fear and a risk of putting that out there that it stays out there, So you want to obviously maintain some professionalism, but you really want to make sure that the things you are sharing are aligned with your brand, whether it's personal, professional. You want to make sure that your brand values are the same, that the message that you're sharing is aligned with your goal in marketing. It's your ideal client, it's talking to them, it resonates, right? There's a method to the madness of it all. And the personal can be a pillar of a regular thing you share. And so a lot of how I do business on the social media side, especially, is that I will create a content strategy for clients and I'll say, we're going to post 10 posts for you a month. That way it's just enough. If you want to post more often to get the authenticity in between there, and you don't want a social media manager like handling all of it, which I'm actually very against. I think that has been the right mix for a lot of my clients. Like, okay, you go ahead and handle like some of the business, some of the professional, get the right content mix out there. And then really anything the clients post on their own is going to be aligned anyway, because we've done the upfront work. We've gotten to know each other. We understand the brand. We know who the person is, how they communicate. And so it's to be expected. The audience isn't surprised to hear things, they're not going to come out of left field. They're not going to be mistaken, So it's like such a cool journey and such a, like, I think an unconventional way to do marketing, but I just think that it gives the best, most, what is the word? Strategic results, I guess I would say. It's just like, doing the right things for the right reasons for you. And the right people do tend to be attracted and follow and they stay around, which is really cool.
Yeah, I love that because you do hear a lot of people say, just once you get to that point in your business, just like you want to delegate it off to this person, you want to delegate it off to that person, which I'm all for. And social media and your marketing and stuff like that, I still think it's very hard to hand your heart over to someone else and expect them to know how to present your perspective through the lenses of your future clients. And so I do think that there still needs to be a piece of you involved with them as you're doing things. So I love that you have this kind of like marriage with the social media piece where, okay, we're going to handle this. We're going to bring in some of your traits as well. We're going to make sure we talk about the business and, please feel free to continue sharing your own stuff or send it to us so we can post it across for you once you come up with it. Like, I love that piece because it allows the business to continue to be ever evolving and you still get to see who the person is instead of every time you see their feed, it's like, oh, you sell this. Oh, you do this. Here's a marketing tip for this, or here's a tip for that. Right. Which is great and all, but sometimes people really do, right? They want to know, like, and trust who you are before they want to step into your world. And in a digital age that we live in, consuming our digital content and our websites and things like that is a huge component of that. So I love that you have that take on there where people can figure out a way to, you can delegate the majority of it, but you still want to keep a percentage of that so you can continue keeping your authenticity and your piece and element in it. And I think it's important to like you said, get to know that person as well and constantly be aware of what they are putting out so that you can say, hey, this doesn't really align, or hey, I wouldn't have really said it that way, if we could kind of tweak it so that you're not just putting yourself on somebody else and expecting them to know how to function like you.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The other component that I think is really important is that there are a lot of business owners who are burnt out by social media, or they don't understand the algorithm, or they,
Mm-hmm.
get into the vanity game, the follower game without really understanding like how to convert on social or build relationships or awareness for their brands. And so a lot of them come to me and they're sick of it. They're like, I'm sick of being on social media. I'm posting every day. I'm not
Yeah.
getting the results. It's draining. I see all my competitors. I'm comparing myself to everyone. I don't think I'm doing it well enough. We can all kind of fall victim to that. And I would say the biggest, I guess, value to them is that they don't have to always be on social media. They have 10 posts a month that they know if life happens in between there, that they can fall back on those. They know that they
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be super present. And I think that really takes like a really big mental load off to know that they don't have to be paying attention to everything. They really are just dialed into who they are, what they're offering, and they can, I always say, put their horse blinders on and just look at the path in front of you, like block out the noise, like you just keep doing you.
Yeah. Well, and it's so easy to get caught up in that, right? I mean, I find myself, I have to catch myself all the time. This morning, I did it this morning. Okay. And I have a lot of things going on right now too. So I'm a little distracted, but I went to post my newest podcast episode and I was like, okay, I've got to put it on my stories. It went out everywhere else, auto post, but I have to physically put it on my stories.
Yep.
And so I went to do it through my phone because that's where I can add all the pretty little things and make it look good.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked up my phone to do it. Someone texted me. So I answered the text, put my phone back down. I was like, oh crap. And I picked it back up. And then I went to do it again. And a notification came for my group. So I answered in the group and then I was answering a couple people in there. And then I was like, oh crap. The one thing, and I've caught myself doing that before where I'm in there and I'm posting and then I'll see someone that I want to comment on and I comment and then I scroll a couple. I'm like, no. Stop.
Yeah, it's
It's
so
so
easy to do.
distracting.
It's so easy to, and the same thing here. People ask like, "Oh, do you do TikTok content?" And I'm like, "No, because all I do is consume the content when I'm on there." So, can I do TikTok content? Yes. Do I want to? No.
Yeah. Oh
Just
yeah. I
because,
haven't touched
I'm
it.
down the rabbit hole. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm 30 minutes in and I haven't created anything."
It is so FYI, everybody, it happens to everyone. It's
Yes,
not
that's
just
right.
you. So definitely, like you said, having someone that really knows how to strategically go in on your platforms and kind of help with that is great. And it's another great way to delegate things off of your plate that is not considered your zone of genius, which I talk about a lot, right? So that you can really hone in on your focus and what you're great at, because it can definitely be a distraction, especially if you know that you are easily distracted.
Yes. I mean, I think, everyone in business has a strategy, right? And marketing's just a part of it. When you talk about the legs, right? Marketing's kind of like I compare it to like a spider web. The marketing is the center, and then we've got social media, we've got email marketing, we've got videos, we've got blogs, we've got SEO as a component, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're feeling like you want to be more personal or personalized, it doesn't just have to be on social, right? It can be through email if that's your preferred way. You don't have to do video if you're a better writer. And so I think that's also a really welcomed piece of advice, because a lot of people are
Mm-hmm.
like, I know I should be doing video, or I know I should be here or there or everywhere. What do you think? And it's always like, start with one or two platforms that you like, where your people are, and
Yeah.
layer on others if you want to. But marketing doesn't have to be everything. And that's the whole premise, more meaningful marketing. It's like getting to the heart of who you are, what you do, and doing it really thoughtfully and well.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up marketing as a whole and kind of given the analogy of it being in a spider web, because I hear a lot of people say, I need to do better marketing. And I do feel like it's immediately associated with social media posts instead of
Yes.
realizing there are so many other components and other ways
Website.
that you can do stuff, right? And that you can draw your potential people in. And if social media isn't really your thing, if you don't really have a following there, but like you said, if you're great with emails and you have a high conversion rate with people opening them, and that's where your people are consuming your information, That's where you need to strategically put your focus in on, not just because everybody's like, if you're not on social media, you aren't going to have clients. Yeah, bull. You have to do what works for you, right? And again, like you were saying, it's aligning yourself with who you know you are, who you know your clients are that you want to attract, and then making sure that you're providing content, information, and feeding them goodness in whatever form it is that you know that they are going to take it in, and not just what everybody else out there says you should be doing.
Yeah, I spoke few years ago now. It had to be like 4 years ago at like a Chamber of Commerce meeting locally. And I had somebody raise their hand and they said, I heard social media is going away. Then what would you say? Because it was a social media marketing presentation.
No.
Someone invited me. I got invited to speak on it. And she's like, I heard it's going away. And I was like, well, if that's true, which I don't think it is, I said, then you should have a really good email list or another way to communicate with people. It could be text, right? Depends on your industry. It depends, as you said, how people want to hear from you, and knowing that not everybody is expecting you to be everywhere. So don't expect yourself to be everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. So for everybody out there, I hope you heard that. Let us repeat that. You don't need to be everywhere. You need to be where your potential clients are, right? Not everywhere. Because it's so easy to get caught up in the trends, and it's so easy to get caught up in, well, this person said this person said that, and these people said they got all these views because they did this. Like, you really have to lean into what works best for you, and honestly, what you're comfortable with, what you want to learn as well. If you keep forcing yourself, it's going to fail anyway because you're going to hate it.
I mean, that's what I've come to find with a lot of clients who come to me and tell me they hate social media. At the end of the day, even after we've worked together, a lot of times they still hate social media. So I'm still doing it for them. Like, it hasn't changed. So they're focusing on email, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes I do think, depending on your business, social media can yield great results. But the last little nugget of advice I'll leave is that don't fall victim to the follower and the follower game. Don't buy followers. You want engaged people who want to hear from you. Personally, I've converted, and I know many who have, at 100 followers, 500 followers, 800 followers, not 8,000, not 8 million. And so it's just about the authenticity, the thought behind your content, how much it resonates, if it's sticky, if it's aligned, right? So all of those play, I think, much bigger roles than just looking at the mere how popular your page may be.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that so much. And as we come to a close, I mean, you've given us so many amazing nuggets, but the one question, I always ask all of my guests is, do you happen to have a quote or a piece of advice that you'd like to leave the audience with?
I don't know if this would be considered pessimistic, but it's one that has always stuck with me. And it's a winner is just a loser who tried one more time. And the reason that I say that is because you never know when a piece of content is going to resonate. You could go viral, although that's not something that I heavily promote, but you can have one choice that makes a very big break for you. And I think that when we put it in terms of like a winner is just a loser who tried one more time, it's very humbling to think about all the people before us who maybe quit before they had their break.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. I really like that. Well, Tiffany, do us a favor. I enjoyed this conversation so much. So to make sure everyone knows how to get in contact with you, tell us, how can we find you? How can they connect with you? And how can they be in your world?
Yes, awesome. So my website is moremeaningfulmarketing.com. I'm focusing right now heavily on Instagram and Facebook. So same handle there, More Meaningful Marketing, also on LinkedIn. You also mentioned about how the audience can start this personal branding journey. I would like to include my personal branding homework or exercise. I know you've personally gone through it. I think that would give some clarity to how to get started with that and give some really good context and good questions to ask.
Yeah, I would love to have that. And we'll make sure we have all that information in the show notes as well, so that everybody can connect and can take that quiz and have all that information. It is amazing. It really makes you sit down and think. So Tiffany, again, I can't thank you enough for being a guest again and filling us in with your side of the story and what it is that you do, and being more meaningful in the way that you market. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
No, you are so welcome. And to everybody else out there, of course, we'll have all that information in the show notes. And I hope you guys were taking notes and understand that you don't have to be everywhere, right? It's figuring out what works best for you. And that is where you're going to grow. And that's where you're going to gain people that want to follow you as well and want to work with you. So I hope you guys got some amazing tips from this. Be sure to share it for somebody else who I know is probably struggling with their marketing as well. And don't forget, until next time, do one thing positive for someone each and every day and see the difference that it makes in your life. So until next time, have a fantastic day. Hello again, and thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today. If you enjoyed this episode and it brought tons of value, we ask that you please share, like, and subscribe. Your support means the world to us and helps us to reach even more inspiring entrepreneurs who can benefit from these powerful conversations. If you haven't already, be sure to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform, as this feedback is an amazing gift that fuels our growth and helps us to continually improve this podcast. Looking for an extra dose of inspiration and empowerment? Then be sure to connect with me on social media. You can find me at The Lotus Effect, where I share valuable resources and tips while sharing my own journey of being an entrepreneur. And if you're interested in learning more about my coaching programs and services, be sure to check out my website at the-lotus-effect.com. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of Real Chat with Kat. Your presence and support makes all the difference. Remember, whether you find yourself in the depths of the mud or on the path of growth, we all have a unique journey. And just like the lotus, some of us start in the dirtiest of mud, yet as we rise and grow, we blossom into something beautiful, unique, and truly one of a kind. To all of my visionaries out there, keep rising and growing as you create your own Lotus Effect.